Definitely time for us to keep pushing through. Today is one of those major days for a major conversation that is long overdue for this level of humanity. And of course, this will be occult systems. Right off the bat, I really want to allow everyone to know that there is a huge difference between the occult systems, as we're calling it, and spirituality. Spirituality, in many essences, is the pure understanding of the doctrine within and how your body functions, how you got here, how you came through the womb, which is, of course, going through planets, through your mother, and all your different multiplicities, meaning that all the different experiences that you've had in order to arrive here. So I really want to celebrate life today, and I also really wanted to put just a tone out by the end of this conversation of why we should remain grateful for all of the situations that are continuously occurring with us to expand. And that's just one of those major things that making sure that, especially the balanced energies, have you in favor is to remain in that frequency by constantly counterbalancing what you receive with the thanks of, hey, thanks for giving me that. And the reason why that's important is in light of this brand new information that I've been unraveling, for me brand new, and it's about how to obtain the level of the absolute, how to share once more the stage that I know that we were all originally in. And some people are really redundant with their message, and that seems to get things done sometimes. Repetition, of course, has its positive effects with allowing people to look at something over and over again and think of the same concept over and over again, and then it starts to click. So in that vein, what I'll do today is I'll repost a picture. I did put a little text on it, but I'll repost a picture that we were sharing for the last 3 shows, which is the absolute. And it shows you, excuse me, I didn't post that picture all the way at the top, so it's underneath the Rastafarian cat for those that have it there. And it's going to take a little bit for me to be able to bring this image back up to the top, which I tried to do on another show to no avail. But if you grab that image, again, everyone has seen it if they've been tuning into the last 3 shows, but what it shows is it shows the absolute, which is not the sun, by the way, and it shows the refractions, or basically the multiplicity of the energy and how it starts to spread out. And then at the end of that chart, or at least from what they're drawing here is the end, they draw the human being, who is a composition of all of these different celestial spheres. Like, we're made of the stuff of stars, really. It's not, something that we have to go improve. It's something that's logical. What you see, or what you call stardust in the minerals of space, they've even decoded that within their hexagonal and pentagonal DNA structures of molecules from space being the same as the molecules in humans, so showing that we are made of the stuff that stars are made out of. But do we really understand or understand what we're made out of is the question today. Can you harness the full potential of who you are without burning up or self-destructing yourself? And this is the big key with the expansion of how everything is really going to work, is that can you actually behold the perpetual power and still not become completely consumed in it from making bad choices? Meaning, when things start to speed up, you start to harness all this power and energy, and then some of the same things that you've been facing all your life come to you and say, hey, why don't we go and do this? And then you decide, now that you have this magnificent power, to also go into that old situation. So this is very dangerous, of course, because all old fields, or fields where everything was unbalanced, is basically a non-fertile field. So what you do in essence is you take all of your energy into a non-fertile field, and it burns it all up. So that's the main thing that I want to convey to everyone today, is to understand that inside there is the pure system of the entire level of spiritual existence, period. Now, what you have on Earth is you have the variations of different individuals that have come to explain that, or come to try to share knowledge with humanity, and the essences and the energies of these individuals or these messages are still here. So to begin the occult systems, you have to understand what I call geoenergetics. And what geoenergetics is the actual study of how the stars, the astronomy, affects the physical plane. And so you've seen me upload this image. It says Geoenergetics Chart 1. And what this is a chart that was put together quite some time ago, and with the individuals who studied this knowledge, which were mainly the royalty. This was called royal knowledge. And they begin to put these charts together, because you see it's done very well. Even someone right now on Flickr or on CGI form may have a hard time putting something like this together. But back in the days, they could put diagrams and charts like this together to show this, not only the movement of our planetary sphere, but also the stars' energies, like the Scorpio energy or the Aries energy. And it was able to show that energy and where it corresponded to on Earth. So be very clear that this is why nations rise and fall, is because at certain points, certain energy that has a lot to do with success is pointing in one area. And then as this huge, I don't know what you want to call it today, but this huge clock begins to keep spinning, the energies change. This is also, you change in life. You go through at least three different phases of your life. So the planetary systems and the energies are no different. The important thing is to gain bearing. You could do the calculation. You had reason, meaning that you weren't like an animal in the sense that the animal doesn't calculate numbers like 666. The animal only acts on instinct. You have the ability to actually think your way in and out of something. So what this does is it raises you on an entirely different level. It raises the being that is inside of you on an entirely different level. But your past is still with you. Like, remember, everything that has ever existed is inside of us, but it's coiled. And this is why also serpents are used in certain figures, because the coiling energy of the past is how your energy is, how the past is stored. Like, how do you live? Let's just give a number for jokes and laughs. 20 billion years inside of a 72-year life. Meaning an immortal being trying to live now 72 years on the clock, and that's time. The show started like, oh my goodness, it's time for the show. So how does that happen? It's because the energy and experiences are all coiled up inside, like dynamos, giving off energies, generators themselves. So what you have to watch is you have to have this multi-processor brain, basically, or mind, that allows you to think about several things simultaneously so you can see the clear picture to everything that is actually occurring. This is called the hyperdimensional self. To return to the hyperdimensional self, and let me get an image that I think is a really good metaphor for that. I call it metaphors of hyperdimensionality. I was even having problems with this word earlier and just getting it out. But you notice here, as I've been studying a lot of the Eastern teachings, who of course they are solar teachings, and then the Western teachings, which are abysmal or sea teachings. So I've been studying these belief systems, and I see one has been wholly fascinated with the enjoyment that we're all having here on the plane, while another one is wholly fascinated with all the problems that we're having here on the plane. And this is at times the difference between Eastern and Western teachings. And the Eastern teachings like, oh, enjoy life, celebrate life, you know, be in love and fauna and swoon and blah, blah, blah. And then the Western world is like diabolical and death. We're all going to die if we don't get out of here. God's a killer, blah, blah, blah. You see? So these are, of course, the different poles. But notice how with this particular deity, which man is God, woman is God, we're everything, okay? So they're trying to show you something here. And if you notice closely, you'll see within the right hand all the tools for some levels of destruction. Swords and knives and spears and dorjes are all there. while in the left hand is the symbols of life, like the conch shell in the lotus, which are, of course, the pineal gland in perpetual force and phi, spinning in the proper direction, and these kind of things. So you can see clearly that they're trying to tell you something. Now, the reason why there's so many arms doing this, though, is because each one who chooses to be that, meaning if you choose to be pineal gland, you've opened up another personality of self. And it functions in that capacity, just as each part of your body functions in its specific capacity. So what's been going on here is that if you get the message from one of these hands, basically, one of these animal traits, which is what it really boils into, and you fail to remember that you're still a hyperdimensional being, then you end up getting caught in this kind of system, which is solar, earth, abyss. Now, of course, I have the board here today, and I think I'm just going to have to write a little bit bigger because I'm seeing the light on the board. Let me see if I can bring this light a little closer so everyone will know what I'm writing here. Let's see how that works out. I'm just going to write a couple things here today that are going to allow this to make a lot more sense. And I want people to understand that this perpetual motion, and we'll draw it first as a circle here, and then a popular symbol on the dimension for this is this symbol. In this perpetual motion, the reason why this symbol was used is because there's a combustion that goes on. This was a symbol of what they call health. Okay, that's what Pythagoras called this, the symbol of health. And of course, this is 72 degrees times 5, which equals 360 degrees, which is supposed to equal this somehow. So what you'll find here is that I started looking into how things are really put together, and I started noticing, well, there's this perpetualness. Okay, there's this perpetual, and I may misspell some things today because you guys all know that I tumble words all the time on my mind. So to me, all words come from here. When you touch the board or the paper or whatever, and you go from there, the word began from there. So in essence, if you understood this, you could leave this entire system alone. But because you're in a process of understanding this, then you have to go through all these processes. But let that be clear. Everything starts, as they'll tell you, it starts from a boom or a bang or a spark or whatever, but that's really what's going on. So in perpetualness, though, if you notice when something is swinging perpetually, it goes like this, right? So if it's in this position at this point, whatever's swinging perpetual, it's not balanced, okay? If it's in this position, it's not balanced. Only if it's in this position does it become balanced. So in the ancient knowledge, there was everyone knew that there was a heavy potential for you to be off balance at times because you were swinging in this perpetual motion of this vehicle in which you were put in. So remember, when we describe what's going on in this dimension, we're describing what's in this area. All of what's out here has not been described. This is always reserved for what we don't know. This has been called space by some, and to others it's been called the abyss. This also makes up the belief systems of extremely black or extremely white. I'm from space. I'm from the abyss. Let's fight. So let me give you another image here which makes this make a lot more sense, and I'm not sure how well everyone is seeing that. So let me check here. Could somebody let me know in the book or in the chat box here how much you can see the board, because I may need to zoom in a little bit on that. Yeah, it looks like I may need to zoom in, so hold on real quick for me. And again, if somebody can type in there, yeah, I can see it, it's okay, or no, I can't see it at all, and you may not be able to see me here in a moment. Let's just try it like that. See how that works out. Okay. Okay, cool. So you guys will even be able to see it better now because I moved it a little bit closer. Okay, yeah, I'm in the shot. Let me grab this here because it's going to cut off a little bit. So I got to walk slower today through today's conversation, by the way, because the cult systems is one of the most difficult things to actually explain. And the reason is because so many people think they know what's going on and they've experienced certain things and blah, 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 blah. But you'll hear today why you're going to have to like regroup and figure out what you've really been told and what you really think is the truth. And here's another reason why now. Remember the whole idea of this pentagram, by the way, becoming a circle, which I seem to can be able to prove through math, but in logic I cannot. Meaning that I cannot see how a straight line would ever become a circle. Like it doesn't take. So remember, this is their way of describing the circle. Now, who is they? Who is they? People love that question. Sevan, who is they? Who are you talking about? So let me show you who we're talking about. Pythagoras, you have to understand, is their father. He's the one that gave them numbers. But in a very big instance, you have to understand Pythagoras' background. And most people don't even know that. Like they never ask that question or don't have access to that information, etc. But let me give you Pythagoras' background. Pythagoras was one of the most learned and most traveled men of the classic Greek period. Now, the reason why you need to hone in that the Greek period is taking place here is because, remember, Greek attempted to duplicate Aramaic, Arabic, and in what's now called Hebrew with Greek. So that's why Greek matches up perfectly to Hebrew. And in fact, many people say that those that are in the Holy Land now are actually, for many of them, are Greeks. And some of them are Khazars. So what happened is that you have to realize that there was a group of individuals that had already come at a certain point attempting to learn all the knowledge and all the mysteries. And the more prominent of them is where you're getting most of your spiritual knowledge from today. This is cause and effect. So it says Pythagoras was one of the most learned men and most traveled men in the Greek period. Probably no other man comprehended so much of all the learning of his time. Meaning that during that time, not too many people, probably no one had ran the full gambit. And let me show you what the gambit is. Where after being initiated into the Elysian mysteries, which is important to understand. First, he was initiated into the Elysian mysteries. Okay, and some people remember that from, I think it was Braveheart or one of the movies where they're going to wake up in the Elysian fields and, you know, the cool wind is going to be blowing on the back and the sun in the face. Okay, so these Elysians, which of course begins with L, are the ones who are originally guiding everything Pythagoras did after that. So Pythagoras then went to Egypt, where he was initiated into the mysteries of Isis. So everyone needs to remember that for those people who are confusing the Elysian mysteries with the mysteries that were in Egypt. No, that's not true. The Elysian mysteries were another system entirely. But he did understand the mysteries of Isis, and is said to have been taught the secret meaning of numbers by an Egyptian priest named Huraman, who was Horus Aman. In Phoenicia and Syria, he learned the mysteries of Adonis. In Palestine, he is said to have spent some time with a mystic sect of Carmel. In Babylon, he learned the mysteries of the Chaldean priests. From Babylon, he went by way of Persia to Hindustan, where he spent several years as a pupil of the Brahmins. Okay? Now, so this means that Pythagoras basically understands all systems of spiritual knowledge on the planet by the time he starts to make his own mystery school. Because remember, Pythagoras later on starts his own mystery school. So I'm going to source a picture here which show you, it's another chart here. Let me see exactly what I got going on here. I think, yeah, these are some of the charts that I want to show you. Let me go ahead and get this one up. Because what you're going to see is what people's religion is at times is fully affected by the emissions of the energies that are above them during the time that they're born. And many people can see this on a macrocosmic level or in your house. for better lack of words. And when you're in your house and your mom is a specific religion, then you become that because she has influence over you. Okay? So this is on a cosmic scale, though, that when you're born in certain areas, you have a tendency to come under the influence of certain religious beliefs. In this next picture, as you start to connect it all, it wouldn't even have to be in order. But at a certain point, it starts to dawn on you that is it possible that every single religion that is developed in the world is developed based on the energies that are being emitted to that area? So thus you have these fish people, and then you have these ram people, then you have these snake people, and because they're so attached into the program, the religious program, they are, of course, using their bodies to amplify only one particular part of the absolute. And the reason why is that beyond this five-pointed star, what I started to discover that there was other geometry. Let's see if I can get some of this other geometry going on here. Okay, there's this other geometry where it appears that the same thing is going on, but it's just more people or more things or more angles on the wheel. So now imagine that this is, let me turn my source back on here a second. Okay, now imagine that this is 12. Okay, and that every single animal on the zodiac is, you know, dogs hate cats and cats hate fish and fish hate. You see what I mean? And then you're in this perpetual cycle where as long as you prefer, you know, scorpion, and scorpion, you know, the eagle and the eagle, you see, you're like inside of the game that they're playing. So this is important to know because this word health comes actually from the word hell, which means heat. Excuse me. Heat. Okay? Because the key word here is he. And he in Hebrew is 5. And is a symbol of what they say is woman, which is the womb. Okay? So what Pythagoras is already saying within his spiritual knowledge is that he understands this hell force, this heat, what they call Kundalini. But there was something else particular about the hidden knowledge of Pythagoras. Because remember, if this is all about health and it's all about healing people, then why is it such a secret? Like this was a secret order. And it's because this star was never drawn like this by the initiated ones. See, what they did was they gave this star to everyone that they that was trying to be like them and trying to understand what they were doing, but really didn't. And they say, oh yeah, this means white magic. This is how they generally drew their star. Okay? So when they drew this star, and I want to show you that when Pythagoras always drew the star, he drew it with the horns up. It upside down, because there was a knowledge that was being passed around in this sect of how to actually consume people. And let me get the pictures up. Consume the soul of people. This is their business. Line of Judah. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Now, the being that everyone calls Jupiter now, Jaja. Okay? People don't understand these energies and what they love to jump on their side, man. Jump on your own side. You're absolute. Like, stop playing the game, jumping on different teams and trying to find what beings you're going to be with and who's got the most power. And look what humanity has gotten themselves into, that we're like walking them out now. So remember, Jupiter is the gentleman you see here on the coin with the horns on his head, and he's known as Baal. Okay, and Bel. Some Sinranus, some the Green Man, some Puck, some Pooh, some Pan. Okay, it's the same deity. He became known as Lord. He eventually became Jesus. Talk about that later. These are earth gods, and I'm going to have to erase this here in a moment for it, so everyone do take a good look. So the reason why it's known as an earth god is because the strange thing about earth gods, what they were saying is that many of the giants were so fertile that their seed became fertilized anything that it landed on. And the root to their forest god is that their forest god, which was a man like me and you are, started practicing bestiality and orgies and all sorts of things. And this became known under many different terms, but it was the rites of who they call Bacchus. Here's Bacchus' symbol. You can find the ancient books. You'll find the symbol of Bacchus was this, which of course you see over Jesus' head most of the time in the Catholic Church, because they think they've destroyed everyone who still knows about this and made everyone else serve them who's still alive. However, we smite their face. Like, this is a continuous issue that we have to go from galaxy to galaxy to galaxy to solve. It starts from a point, meaning that when we address the problem, this way everyone should know. Like, somebody say, oh man, what do you mean? You know, there's so many people out there need to know, and so many people that won't listen. It starts here. And then it goes and does what it needs to do. That's how we begin the major thing. Like, it begins with us. The expansion is right around the corner, literally. Like, once people realize what's happening, and then their minds start to reason, because they are reasoning beings, then everything starts to free up here. You'll see it. So what happens is that Mr. IHS is actually Bacchus. So all the orgiastic rites and the serpent rites and all of that stuff was rolled underneath the church. Now let's start over really quick here, because I got to get a clear board to be able to explain to you guys how all this starts to play out, because now there's this one side who thinks that they're good. And they've been given some of the mysteries and things like that, and they keep their star like this, of course. And then there's this other side who's the secret one, right? And this other secret side is like a shadow. It never allows the other ones to even know that it exists, except for the ones that go completely all the way. This is like a fanatic. Now, here we get the cult of the entity known as Baphomet. Now, anyone who's involved with this cult is already a cipherist and a coder. Okay? So there's nothing about this name that really means anything unless you understand how to decode words. The secret to decoding Baphomet was Tim O. Ob, which is this name backwards. Tim is, of course, the Knights Templar's god. Some people think the word temple is just there. Temptation. Tim is an actual entity, but, you know, we'll get into that later. Oath means snake. Father. Ab means father. So to them, this became wisdom. That says that Baphomet means wisdom. It's because these particular people who believed in this system were getting their knowledge from the serpent, father, who became known also as El. Okay, and then his children became known as Elohim. Okay, now we have to talk about the Elohim and Elohim situations, because a lot of what you're seeing in Egypt has everything to do with the Elohim. And this is why you get this strange occurrence, which is how the cat came into existence. So some people say, wait a minute, did you skip something? Can you tell me how all this connects? So let me grab this image here. Now, what you see here, actually, hold on, let me go back for a second here. Let me just put my chart up. Well, okay, hold on. Okay, here we go. Now this is going to get interesting, because now you'll see that this whole hybridization thing, this whole making new bodies and taking the essence of one animal or one energy is not an old thing, and putting into another is not an old thing. I mean, not a new thing at all. It's actually a very ancient thing. So what you had going on is hidden within the mystery of the Sphinx. Okay, so now we got to talk about Elohim and Egypt. Some people love this topic. They're like, yes, finally we're gonna, yes, I love the Egypt stuff. And it's because what's going on with Elohim and Egypt are hidden within the riddle of the Sphinx. So they said there's this like ancient story about there's this riddle of the Sphinx. The Sphinx asks these questions, nobody's able to answer it. The Sphinx kills someone every day. And it's supposed to be that when someone solves the riddle, the immortality will bestow itself back upon humanity. Okay? Let me tell you why there's a lion man sitting in front of the pyramid. And this goes, some people have to scroll all the way down to the first picture that was posted today, which shows the lion from Madagascar, the return of, what is that, Madagascar family movies. I think it's one of Disney's works, Return to Madagascar, where the lion's head is cut like a pentagon. And you understand that in the pyramids are, what's encoded in the pyramids is Phi. That's why pyramid means fire in the middle, right? Pyramid, fire in the middle. And then pentagram is called the blazing star. And of course, all this has to do with heat, right? So there's something that has already been discovered here in Egypt about heat, prana, kundalini, energy, and that's why it was known as the mystery school. And then most of the stuff had to do with the snake, which is the serpent-like flow of Tiamat, the Tiamat energy of this planet, geomagnetics, geoenergetics, and all the rest of that stuff. So what you had here is you had a teaching that was being followed about how to build these energies. But see, it went always too far, like Big Head Yakub on the island of Patmos, where you literally had individuals that had taken the lion, you know, lion is fierce, and then this snake, and of course the snake lives a long time, and then mixed it together and made a cat. How could that be true? Because, as I'm showing on this top, the tip image now, you scroll all the way to the top, the cat has snake eyes and a lion or feline body. So, is there anything, like if you put a lion in the room with a snake, do you think at some point that the lion is going to start humping the snake? No. So how would you come up with something like a cat? What kind of technology or organic technology are you using? So now you get to the keys of Egypt, okay? Now, here's another occurrence to add more credit to what I'm explaining to you, because he got that from Avatar. Now you understand why they're messing with those blue lion people in Avatar. Because even in Eri, or Ri, excuse me for jumping off topic here, but Ri means lion. And this is the root to the word Aryan. Okay? So how does it connect? Because if you're in Ethiopian, you'll understand why the Ethiopian people and the Jamaican people love each other and get along, because it's Rastafari. Let's get another word up here really briefly. Just Ras. Okay? Which has as its root Ra. Okay? We'll just put this here for a moment. For those who understand what the R sign is, which is the R sign is the pentagram. This is the secret name for the pentagram. R when it's this way, Oob when it's this way. I don't know how to draw the thing. But again, it's probably like that. Yeah, extremely imperfect. Okay? Oob means corner. It is the root to the word Uber, which means witch. That thus means Ubermensch actually means super witch. Just learned some German today. And so you understand the motivation of this movement that has been utilizing this energy in a distorted way. Ub is also, it means corner. This is because darkness retreats to the corner when light comes, and then when light leaves, it comes back out of the corners. It's called the corner also because on each point of this pentagram, which has a meaning, there's an angle, meaning that they'll come at you at different angles. If you like girls and stuff like that, one side of the star. If you like church and fanaticism that doesn't make any sense, another side of the star. If you like darkness and occultness and vampirism, another side of the star. But either way, you accomplish the wheel. Them circling and squaring you. Basically, that's what they mean by we're going to square the circle. So, let's go on. Now you'll see why. Now remember, lion's a fearsome beast. So in many essences, like when you see the pure level of raw predator, you see the lion. He's a pure carnivore. There's no vegetables in there. So many people in the world sought to identify with dangerous entities and creatures such as the lion and the snake, right? And also the eagle. In fact, the lion, the snake, and the eagle, and maybe if you can throw in an ox because of its strength, or uru, then you had what was called the crown of the Magi, which is a picture I have to source later on. But it shows you that in the crown of the Magi are these three basically apex beings. Let me see if I can pull that up real briefly for you. All right, I'm dropping the image. So, what you had going on in the past is still going on now. Now, here's another strange thing. Now, I'm going to get into explaining this lion symbolism because, see, the lion symbolism was considered at a certain point to be a solar symbol. The lion, whose big mane is like gold. Even the word Ri, again, also means gold in other languages. Gold mane, and Ri means rays, right? So it was synonymous at times with the sun to people. And this is why Ra, when he went into Nubia and conquered the Ethiopians and subdued them, he became their god. He left the plant, also known as marijuana, which means Maya. It means illusion. He did give them the plant of the illusion. And again, if you can't master the illusion, then you end up becoming succumbed by the plan of illusion and rhythmic music. Mar, of course, means sea. But we'll get into that later on because those are like the components. When each of these energies have a component because we're in a dual plane. So what happens is that the lion became this symbol of the sun, supposedly, right? But everyone in the Eastern world knew that the lion was actually a symbol of the ruler of the abyss because the level of pure predator that was in the lion was like the symbol for that. So look at this symbol here. You see the Lion of Judah, which is, of course, what the Rastafarian use as their symbol. And then everyone is made to believe, oh, this lion is so loving and caring for you. And it's the father lion, just like on the Lion King. But they don't realize on the Lion King there was two lions. There was Scar, which most of them act like these individuals who are so-called controllers. And then there's the other lion, which is basically a lie, too. Two lions, lion. Okay? Now, because in the fleshly character, there's nothing but lies. And this is because it's an illusion. So remember, I'm not saying this directly as if, hey, this is lion's a lie. I'm telling you that this is all the truth because one thing equals another. If you could stop being immature and be mature and you say, oh, okay, well, when you're a carnivore, okay, which many of the humans are carnivores, you are eating not only other animals, but you're eating yourself. And this is why. Look on the chart, and it shows you the absolute here, and then it shows you the divisions of the absolute, and then you're eventually here, but you're still this. So this means everything in between, oxen, snake, trees, all this stuff, are still just parts of you. When you guys all get here, you look like separate pieces, but you all came from here. So when you choose to eat him you've ate yourself, and thus you've unlocked the symbolist self of Ouroboros, which is a serpent eating his tail, and cannonball, which is the root to the cannibal. Okay? So the cannibal eats itself to grow. So this is the other deeper mystery that is, you can't handle the truth. This was the other deeper mystery that they didn't want to really tell everyone, is that, hey, you're actually in this perpetual motion eating yourself because you really are all. So that's, of course, why perpetual energy is created. Now imagine, these are very advanced beings, because perpetual energy is then created off of organics. A perpetual swing that happens within you through conflict of you generating fire energy and conflict. And then you're inside of it. This is the other thing that you have to realize. The way to gain bearing is to realize all this stuff is going on. This is also why I'm not telling you, oh, should I stop eating today? Well, you won't be here for but a few more days. Then, but the reality is that what you have to understand is that, first of all, you eliminate certain things out of the diet, obviously, like the meats. But the most important thing is to be thankful. This is where when you're saying blessings over the food, as they call it, or praying over the food, that all sounds Christian, right? But this animal, this plant even, is choosing to give you its energy in probably hopes that you'll allow it to transcend. You're actually playing the role of God over the energies that are already here, whether they be plants, animals, air, whatever, because it's actually giving it to you. It's making a sacrifice. And this is why you have to see that Earth, this reality that we're in, was making a sacrifice in having us here. And so why man is roaming about and woman like lions and lioness, because remember, the lioness is really the one that does most of the predator type behavior in this kind of hierarchy. And that's why you have a queen and you don't really see the king. He's back there with the children. And because that's exactly how a lion pride really works. The male doesn't go and do all the hunting, the female does. So while you see the Lion of Judah with clearly a cross in his hand and that same Maltese cross on the crown, but just because it's got Rastafarian colors, then all these people over there are like, this is us, this is ours, this belongs to us. But what are you taking? What are you accepting? Could the trick be that that's what they want you to do, to accept that you're basically Leo Fentalis? That you're basically Yalda Bayo? That you're the beast that ravages the world, that does not respect any other animals, that all are terrified of? And then look, that's the character of Ra. That's what the embodiment was, to idolize that for that time before those beings, those humans, and that's who they were then too, realize that, man, what am I doing? I'm only destroying myself, because when I'm destroying other people, and I'm even doing that on a massive level, I'm really causing a lot of damage to myself, which happens. And this is the other part of what people call magic today, is the reflux current, because you can't be a neophyte all the time expecting what you're doing is actually not causing some reactions and things to occur. And then are you being coerced to do things that are definitely putting you in an entirely different perspective of something you wouldn't even know exists. Meaning that at times people jump into certain kind of knowledge or do certain kind of things, or maybe pick up a book and do the ritual exactly how it is there, as if they're just making a cake or something from a recipe on Google. And then the reality is that you have to gain bearing of what exactly you're doing, because something is attempting to basically push us off a cliff. In humanity, I'm going to tell you that I'm an individual that knows a great deal of esoteric knowledge and has a great deal of spiritual energy and power. But on the side of humanity, I always stand. It's not for me to jump into degrading and desecrating the reality. This could be something as simple as me just going to the club every day. You see, like, there's ways that every day that when we choose not to utilize the vehicle that we've been given to maximize it to its full potential, that we are literally a major part of the darkness, the ignorance, because no one that is intelligent and bright truly would allow such time to be wasted. If you are ill, search for your cure until the breath is squeezed from you, meaning that there is relief for those that are persistent. And that's why, of course, I wanted to thank most of the people on the line here today for remaining persistent and getting this information. So let's go on. What we have here is we have this coin. So I showed you now just a British flag with the same thing. The British love to stand with the lion too, because they say, I'm the lion. England says, I'm the lion. Like when they go and you see their crest on the, on their shields and all that stuff, they always put the lion there like that. He's damn near walking. Because what they're saying is that we at some point have bred ourselves. Now, some people look for the genetic experiment because they're so external. They look for this laboratory that these ancient people had, and that they were going to have this laboratory and beakers and genes and stuff there. And that's how the ancient people were mixing up different kinds of human beings. That's not what they were doing. What they were doing is hidden within the word tan. Tan, which is also the root to the word tantric, is the word that is used to mean absorbing the energy of another being. This is why when people go out to tan now in the sun, they absorb the energy of the sun and then they become darker in skin tone. So you can understand the color of the sun. So what happens is that tan, in its real sense, was something that became known as tantrics. Because remember, grab my pen here. The tantric thing was really going on in Baphomet's cult of Elohim, electric gods and serpents and snakes and wombs and vesicas and vaginas and phallic symbols and all sorts of stuff was in the earth cult. This is why the earth people became like incessantly immoral at a certain point. They say it got to a certain degree that all were enveloped by this energy. Even walking into areas such as churches where this energy was going, you would immediately go into this trance, or what they call bath. Okay? And this is the root to this word. Let me go ahead and erase the board. Everyone's seen that. The root to the word bath, or is what would occur if you walked into one of these buildings and they were throwing Shekinah around, and you happen to be in there, because these are real energies. They've been bringing them up for a long time. Many of our loved ones are still in it. The bath. Bath means to die, but not the die like death, or does it really mean that? Because die, let's see, here we go. Yeah. Let me just give you all the variations of this really quick. D is also a Z here. Okay. Hopefully that's enough for now. So that meant to die, and what that means is it's a bath. Because people who went through this process of what they call baptism changed. When they were like on the outside, they were one person, but then when they went in and took the bath, or what they later on became known as Sophia, then they were changed. Okay? Now, there will be multiple arguments about this forever. And this is why this Baphomet became known as the Antichrist, because they said that once this knowledge of where this internet, yeah, exactly, the internet and the rest of all these other energies, the false ones, were really coming from, then it would bring the end of Christ's era. That's why it was called the Antichrist, because it was going to explain the things of what the Christ and the Christians were really involved in, whether they knew it or not. So this bath or baptism, some people will argue with it did a person a lot better. Some people say it did them a lot worse. Now they're a fanatic. But just in general, so everyone can get over this, to understand that if you don't have the information of who you are and what you are, because someone is telling you that you don't need that, it's going to equal repeat. Meaning that you're going to come once again to a world behaving as if you don't know what's going on, because your last guide that you thought, the blind one, was leading you and did not really give you any truth. And because truth is the only thing that survives the wormhole, truth is the only thing that can survive the 0-point field, because truth will always hold. Truth is an anchor. So if you anchor yourself in truth, then you don't have to worry about anything. But if you anchor yourself in falsehood, which is basically that someone else can die for you. Because remember, all this whole Bath cult is telling people, look, if you do what we do and get in what we get, then you can benefit off of what we do. That you only can benefit off of what you do. There's no one that can die for you. So you wouldn't even want them to. You need those life and death procedures to grow more advanced. And also, look, it's almost a play in words at times when someone says, well, I'll die for you. Well, you can die really for yourself if you understand what type of energy is associated with when you are able to split off the negative parts of yourself and basically trim and shape your own self. So in effect, you want to do all this yourself. So when you have someone else doing it for you, this became known as taking the bath. Okay? And then when you went under, you came out different. Now, this is, so what began to happen, of course, because many of these earth energies are tan. Tan is also a word for serpent. Okay, tan means snake, as in Leviathan. Levi, tan. Okay? Say-tan. Okay? So, tan, remember, means to take on the energy of something else. So, many of these energies you could never tell. That's why, see, the spirituality of this world was never just limited to what they're explaining in the Bible. There was a lot more beings than the Elohim, all throughout the universe, different types of entities. So what this created is this created a time where some people could tell you, yeah, you're with the good group, and you're with the ones that know everything, and we're going to guide you to where you need to go. And in reality, they were just another group of chthonic beings. There's a chthonic or a dark side to our consciousness. This is where this comes in. Actually, this should be written here. It always exists on these kind of planes. People do have darkness in them. Okay? And so this is the wolf. This is the owl. This is the lion. This is the snake. Let's see who else loves to run around at night, creeping up on things and damaging things. This is the hyena. So there's this night side to things that many individuals getting involved in the Baphomet cult or the cult of Baal end up attaching themselves onto. And this created what was known as a fanatic. So what a fanatic really is that now you have individuals that are literally possessed with the energies from their local area and have been basically introduced to those energies through some type of spiritual or religious study. Then, of course, from this point, as we explained in the chart of the absolute, then the person starts seeing through the eyes of whatever tan they've picked up. All right? So that should be pretty simple. I think people should be able to really understand that what you see going on here in the world today is a major misunderstanding of esoteric knowledge, spiritual stance. And this is, of course, perpetuated by many of the stagnant energies on Earth. So one of the last pictures that I uploaded also was this lion coin, because you have to understand that since this all had a lot to do with energy, then even false versions of energy, they kept getting more and more creative. The solar gods under the symbol of the lion, meaning that the so-called solar gods under the symbol of the lion started making coins, which of course is the word Cain, which is Khan, which is king, which is Cohen, and all those words mean the same thing. So the whole idea of money equaling energy was the ultimate fleshly idea from the lions. Okay? So let me post here another chart just to finish off the pictures here, because we got about 10 more minutes of the conversation. And what I have here is what I call the geomagnetic energetics chart 2, which is, it shows that when the Earth is actually off the wobble and stands up straight, which it does at a certain point, this is generally the geometry that is associated with that. And that's why only at the certain point of what they call the lineup is where all energies are exactly where they're supposed to be. This means that, of course, this started somewhere. So the original position that it started in, it's going to return to. And that's like a no-brainer. So we should expect to see and understand more of the totality of self within these this next interim that we're going into, because that is exactly what's happening. The universe is expanding and then contracting. It's expanding and then contracting. It is like a heart itself. It goes and it expands into this state where it's almost like everything is divided and doesn't even know who's who, what's what. And then it starts to contract into this phase of where it understands its full totality as complete energy. It will more than likely begin to expand again. What we're actually teaching here, so people can understand, we're not teaching occult knowledge. We're actually teaching how to supersede occult knowledge, meaning how to get on the level where instead of you being in this thing that's expanding and contracting and moving all around, having at least a vehicle or a state of consciousness that is constant. So let me go ahead and finish uploading the rest of... I did want to also say, excuse me, there is going to be, of course, an as below correspondence. Oops. I didn't do that immediately, so it's probably going to go further down to the bottom. But there is an as below correspondence to... you get to the top. It's below the Rastafarian kitty. Some people did ask about that earlier, but okay. So what the Rastafarian kitty is there for is that I'm trying to explain to people that you can be very, very aggressive, and then they can breed it out of you. This is what I'm trying to show people with the domesticated cat, that they can take two species that have nothing to do with each other and somehow crossbreed them. Like I was saying, how the Egyptians were doing it is in the Egyptian Ogia, which is where the root of words like orgy come from, is that they would get all these animal spirits together and then absorb them all in some type of sexual frenzy. This is, if you want to know in the world where that comes from. Because remember, there's an as below, so above nature to everything. But some people fail to open up certain doors and see that even on the internet and even in our reality, there are people doing some very strange things. So you ask, well, where is the as above relation to that? And you get it when you understand what this etymology and things really mean. There's another individual running around the internet. I won't even mention his name. His picture is here. His name is, his title I give is the surrogate, because there would, of course, be some type of as below resonator to the energies that we've been dealing with on the earth for a long time. And so it comes out as this individual who names himself this, okay? And it's because he embodies then the snake and the lion, which in essence are false wombs. So what then, because they're not the creators, and that was the whole thing about Yaldabaoth, who's a lion, serpent-faced eagle god, is that I'm the creator of everything, and that's not true. So anytime someone comes as a lion and lying and a sneaky snake, okay, anytime they come with that and try to be real, okay, because that's what they're saying. This is real. This is what the real thing is. Like the real things to us are serious, right? So that's what they're saying in their words. But that's not, doesn't mean that's the truth. It just allows me to peep your hold card, basically. It allows me to see who you really believe in and what you think is the truth. It doesn't make any decisions for me. So here we are. They have Ra, El, and Sirius that they love to play with, which is a lion, a snake, and a bird. As we talked about, that the snake is the other evolutionary stage of the bird. So you have this composition of the like I said, apex beings, apex animals. Okay, so this womb on Earth now, his business is that if you have a baby and you need that baby to be born in another womb, then they can take, because the woman's womb can't have a baby, they could take the DNA from the woman and then mix it with the DNA of the man, or the egg, and all the rest of the, not the egg, but the semen from the man, then place it into a surrogate womb. He has at least 20 surrogate wombs on staff, and they can birth a baby. Then it sounds like Damien to me. So at this point, we're living in a world, and this is going to be today, of course, the end of our conversation, but we're living in a world where we have this major opportunity to expand, but it's going to be, expansion is going to come from the truth. And expansion is going to come from us knowing exactly what is happening here on earth. Also remember, today is the Occult Systems group. So if some of the things that came across today were a little bit too strong for you, make sure you don't tune in to the next Occult Systems group, which is in about 2 weeks. But the Occult Systems group is designed mainly for adepts, because it actually puts you right at the question that many adepts are asking, especially if they're going through some of the common books. There's a few things that I wanted to mention that I did take a note on, and one is, of course, here, the origins of the word Wicca and witch actually terms in itself to the Sanskrit word vidya, which is actually where we get the English word video from. So to show you how the whole TV and the video thing is really to, especially when used in an abusive way, is really to enchant the individual. But that's where that word video came from, is it comes from the same word that means witch in Sanskrit. A Wiccan originally, and from its original tense, meant weak. It meant that one had bent, as in wicker, to the will of the forest god, who is basically your animalistic desires. That was the conclusion of it. All of the drama and everything that people did, putting spells on each other, taking potions from nature. Remember, the reason why there becomes this huge dark side to it is because there's this whole nighttime side to Earth. Earth is the one with the nighttime side, so that it can create a stasis, basically. Remember, Earth has day and then it has night, right? So what goes on in between? Stasis. And this is why you remain in the present, as it's called, which I already said before is an anagram for the word serpent. We're like, oh man, I didn't see that. Or some people are like, man, you told us that like 3 years ago. But anyway, you see what happens is when you're remaining in stasis, only human beings can do this at this point in a major way, because they're in these phi or conflict-related bodies on a perpetual swing that is basically keeping them unbalanced at some point or another, except for here. So what happens is that if you peek your head into the night side of things, then you get these the nightshades, a deadly nightshade, or basically plants that are even poisonous and things that are harmful to life. So it's all about also understanding the difference in what you are, because if some people say, well, you know, I'm a witch, I've been a Wiccan for a long time, I practice white magic. You got to understand what you're really saying. You didn't even finish the courses. Just again, to recap on earlier today, those who practice in the cult of Amun, known as Amun-Ra, or anything else he could name himself to get people to bow down and worship, on his worship, you have to understand that, let me see, this word, excuse me, so just off here, I kind of, let's get my word here. Excuse me, let's get my word here. Okay. Or actually, you know, we're just going to cover that in another session, because that's just going to get us into a huge part of. Actually, I did want to show everyone again. There's another connection here with Ab, Ra, Ham, which is known to be the god of or the father of Christianity. So you get, of course, Father Ra from the tribe of Ham, okay? And Hamites were known to be the ones that were in Egypt. They took over Lower Egypt, which is to everyone else Upper Egypt sometimes in their mind, but the Hamites were in the place with all the pyramids that were consecrated to Orion. So that's why there became this whole taboo also about eating ham because it was known to be, as they tell you, the ham has almost all the organs of a human being, and those organs can even be used in transplanting. So what you had is that these hyperdimensional beings are still keeping around all of the necessary components that are necessary to make life. If you somehow get yourself trapped into being a ham or being in some type of serpent or being some type of bird, you still are you're making yourself caught up into something that you don't really understand fully and something that you can emancipate because you're actually everything. So I guess that's going to be it for today's conversation. We're, of course, going to be on tomorrow. This show is going to be Monday through Friday, by the way. So if anyone wants to know, and of course, we'll always have the Astral Quest show on Sundays, which is really what the 2012 show is metamorphosizing into, because 2012, of course, is almost over. Let me look here a little bit into the notes so I can make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, of course, here's another connection. It comes within the word Mendes. Okay, this Baphomet was known as the goat of Mendes. Okay, Mendes is the name for Lower Egypt. Okay, so Mendes equals Lower Egypt, and Mendes is, of course, demon, meaning the divided men. Divided, of course, divided means David. Okay, it's just, again, a process that humanity is going to, and this is why David's son is Solomon. Okay, Solomon actually means whole or complete, because he's containing both the sun and the moon, which are the spark and the fertilization. Same thing with Adam. You'll see that all these words mean, in essence, Da, which is the root for the name Daddy, Ma, and of course Dama means the congealed clay. So there's many words that are showing that this stuff should have never been taken literal. It was always them pairing the masculine and the feminine components in the same word. And then if it wasn't paired, then you would get this symbol, the D, which means basically a half of a circle. As you see, the D, again, is a half of a circle. So all the words that we have that begin with D, such as devil, diabolical, dangerous, destruction, all that, of course, means to split things. So that's, of course, just a little insight into etymology. And of course, during the etymology and ciphering group, we'll get into that a lot more and show you exactly how the language is wired together. Again, beware of them changing angles on you, meaning that all is self, this is the highest maxim, the pure doctrine is within. So when you choose to step outside of that and you start absorbing information, then you can get caught up in this back and forth thing that equals you're back on the wheel. So if you're trying to not be a product all the time, then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to understand that, again, it's all within. And when you come outside into observing all this knowledge, you have to make sure you don't get hit from one of the angles and then start back into the combustion system again. Yeah, that looks like it. I was kind of concerned a little bit today about whether we'd be able to get through all of what I have here, but it looks like we did pretty well. I think there's one more picture here that needs to be uploaded. Let's see what that was. Actually, no, all the pictures got uploaded. Okay, so I want to say wholeness and balanced vibration to everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow at the same time, 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. My name is James Evans Bomar III. Of course, this is the Resistance Wholeness. DNA structures of molecules from space being the same as the molecules in humans, so showing that we are made of the stuff that stars are made out of. But do we really understand or understand what we're made out of is the question today. Can you harness the full potential of who you are without burning up or self-destructing yourself? And this is the big key with the expansion of how everything is really going to work, is that can you actually behold the perpetual power and still not become completely consumed in it from making bad choices. Meaning when things start to speed up, you start to harness all this power and energy, and then some of the same things that you've been facing all your life come to you and say, hey, why don't we go and do this? And then you decide, now that you have this magnificent power, to also go into that old situation. So this is very dangerous, of course, because all old fields, or fields where everything was unbalanced, is basically a non-fertile field. So what you do in essence is you take all of your energy into a non-fertile field and it burns it all up. So that's the main thing that I want to convey to everyone today, is to understand that inside there is the pure system of the entire level of spiritual existence, period. Now, what you have on earth is you know that we were all originally in. And some people are really redundant with their message. And that seems to get things done sometimes. Repetition, of course, has its positive effects with allowing people to, look at something over and over again and think of the same concept over and over again, and then it starts to click. So in that vein, what I'll do today is I'll repost a picture. I did put a little text on it, but I'll repost a picture that we were sharing for the last 3 shows, which is the absolute. And it shows you, excuse me, I didn't post that picture all the way at the top, so it's underneath the Rastafarian cat for those that have it there. And it's going to take a little bit for me to be able to bring this image back up to the top, which I tried to do on another show to no avail. But if you grab that image, again, everyone has seen it if they've been tuning into the last 3 shows, but what it shows is it shows the absolute, which is not the sun, by the way, and it shows the refractions, or basically the multiplicity of the energy and how it starts to spread out. And then at the end of that chart, or at least from what they're drawing here is the end, they draw the human being, who is a composition of all of these different celestial spheres. Like, we're made of the stuff of stars, really. It's not, something that we have to go improve. It's something that's logical. What you see, or what you call stardust in the minerals of space, they've even decoded that within their hexagonal and pentagonal. Definitely time for us to keep pushing through. Today is one of those major days for a major conversation that is long overdue for this level of humanity. And of course, this will be occult systems. Right off the bat, I really want to allow everyone to know that there is a huge difference between the occult systems, as we're calling it, and spirituality. Spirituality, in many essences, is the pure understanding of the doctrine within, and how your body functions, how you got here, how you came through the womb, which is, of course, going through planets, through your mother, and all your different multiplicities, meaning that all the different experiences that you've had in order to arrive here. So I really want to celebrate life today, and I also really wanted to put just a tone out by the end of this conversation of why we should remain grateful for all of the situations that are continuously occurring with us to expand. And that's just one of those major things, that making sure that especially the balanced energies have you in favor, is to remain in that frequency by constantly counterbalancing what you receive with the thanks of, hey, thanks for giving me that. And the reason why that's important is in light of this brand new information that I've been unraveling, for me brand new, and it's about how to obtain the level of the absolute, how to share once more the stage that this is also, you change in life. You go through at least three different phases of your life. So the planetary systems and the energies are no different. The important thing is to gain bearing. You could do the calculation. You had reason, meaning that you weren't like an animal in the sense that the animal doesn't calculate numbers like 666. The animal only acts on instinct. You have the ability to actually think your way in and out of something. So what this does is it raises you on an entirely different level. It raises the being that is inside of you on an entirely different level. But your past is still with you. Like, remember, everything that has ever existed is inside of us, but it's coiled. And this is why also serpents are used in certain figures, because the coiling energy of the past is how your energy is, how the past is stored. Like, how do you live? Let's just give a number for jokes and laughs. 20 billion years inside of a 72-year life. Meaning an immortal being trying to live now 72 years on the clock, and that's time. The show started like, oh my goodness, it's time for the show. So how does that happen? It's because the energy and experiences are all coiled up inside, like dynamos, giving off energies, generators themselves. So what you have to watch is you have to have this multi-processor brain, basically, or mind, that allows you to think about several things simultaneously, so you can have the variations of different individuals that have come to explain that, or come to try to share knowledge with humanity, and the essences and the energies of these individuals or these messages are still here. So to begin the occult systems, you have to understand what I call geoenergetics. And what geoenergetics is the actual study of how the stars, the astronomy, affects the physical plane. And so you've seen me upload this image. It says Geoenergetics Chart 1. And what this is a chart that was put together quite some time ago, and with the individuals who studied this knowledge, which were mainly the royalty. This was called royal knowledge. And they begin to put these charts together, because you see it's done very well. Even someone right now on Flickr or on CGI form may have a hard time putting something like this together. But back in the days, they could put diagrams and charts like this together to show this, not only the movement of our planetary sphere, but also the stars' energies, like the Scorpio energy or the Aries energy. And it was able to show that energy and where it corresponded to on Earth. So be very clear that this is why nations rise and fall, is because at certain points, certain energy that has a lot to do with success is pointing in one area. And then as this huge, I don't know what you want to call it today, but this huge clock begins to keep spinning, the energies change.